Hello, gravel adventurers, and good morning. We are back with another episode of Gravel Exchange. And this week we are virtually traveling to Belgium. And I am super excited to have Tom with me here. Tom is one of the members of the Dirty Boar team. And we'll dive into Dirty Boar later, but Dirty Boar is certainly one of the older European gravel events. We'll touch on that. But Tom, before we go down that path and talk about Dirty Boar, take us back to as this modern era of gravel was taking off in the States. When did it start to reach over into Belgium, and when did Belgium cyclists start to participate and host these kinds of events? Take us back to the beginning over there.
I think that was not so long ago. First of all, thanks for organizing this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for
great to hear and talk with gravel enthusiasts from other parts of the world and see the videos that you already made. Yeah, I think it was around 2016, 2017. That's also the time that we got into gravel cycling. So maybe there were people before us, I don't know. But that's when it started for us. We participated 2016 at Dirty River. You already talked to Paul, who was one of the guys behind Dirty River. So we saw an announcement for that event late 2015. And we said, wow, that looks kind of cool, something we want to do. So we had over there 2016 and had a fun, really great weekend because with the travel and so on, so it was really a weekend for us. And then we took the boat there and back. And on the boat over a couple of beers, we said, wow, that's something great. We should have this in Belgium. And then we decided, okay, let's try to put this kind of similar event on in Belgium. So that's where it started for us.
That origin story is very common. It typically happens a few guys over a few beers saying, hey, we ought to do this back where we live.
Yeah. That's when all the good plans start.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I think maybe there were maybe one or two events in 2016. I don't know, in Belgium. I didn't participate in them at least, but maybe they were there. Then 2017, we did our first Dirty Boar, and then I think there were maybe 2 or 3 events also in that year. And from that on, every year it has grown a lot.
Yeah.
Really, last year, 2019, I think there were a lot of events. So yeah, I think since last year you can almost pick every weekend or every 2 weeks you can pick a gravel event, whereas 2016, 2017 you had to really do maybe one event every 2 months or every month. That would have been more or less the maximum.
Yeah. And I certainly thought it was much longer ago than that when I first remember Dirty Boar, but just 2017, just a few years ago now.
Yeah.
Well, here in the States, cycling is not the most popular sport. But in other parts of the world, especially Europe, cycling is one of the most popular, right up there, I think, just behind soccer. So in Belgium, of all the European nations, cycling is has a very rich history. I mean, you think of right out of the gate, 2 of the 5 monuments are in Belgium, whereas some countries don't even have any. And so Belgian cyclocross, Belgian cyclists, all these things come to mind. So our impression over here in the United States is that probably gravel cycling would be very, very popular. But as you got started just only a few years ago, were you seeing a lot of big crowds, or was it still kind of small at first?
I think it was still relatively small. It was kind of a niche thing, gravel cycling. I think it's also because cycling is fairly popular, especially then road racing and then some mountain biking. I think we already have a lot of opportunities to cycle, and road cycling is very much on TV. So what's on TV is usually kind of a role model. So when you see cycling, oh yeah, that looks interesting. Oh, let's try that. So that you don't have with gravel cycling. I think you need to be a little bit into cycling already, and then kind of discover, oh, I can do that also. I can ride into the woods and do off-road riding with my road bike or with a gravel bike.
Yeah.
So I think that's why still the main focus is still on road cycling, because that's a lot on TV and we have such a rich history. So I think we're kind of stuck into the tradition a lot. Well, it's a very traditional cycling country, or cycling, how do you say, cycling heritage.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of ways that makes sense because with road cycling, it can be easily televised, right? It's a lot easier to follow with video cameras and media. And cyclocross, of course, is tailor built to spectating. It is a small, windy course where lots of people can watch a lot of the action as well, televise it. Gravel cycling, on the other hand, is not as easily televised. The roads are not as accessible for vehicles and video cameras. They're typically very linear, big, long, open routes that are, you can't just stand in one place and see lots of the action. But by contrast, they're very participatory. They're very accessible to the actual cyclist. So it'll be interesting to see if that access to gravel increases in the coming years and exposes more people to that discipline of cycling.
Yeah.
You know,
I also don't see a lot of possibilities to make it televised, because here in Belgium, or I think typically also in Europe, most gravel roads are maybe a 2-lane road, just enough for 2 cyclists next to each other, not really for a few cyclists and a vehicle or a motorcycle next to them. So I think it will remain more of a participant sport, or maybe with a few races that have some spectators along the course, but maybe
personally,
televising would be difficult.
I've seen how much trouble the media cars have in events like the Tour, and they're still hitting cyclists, and there's big problems with that. And so personally, I don't want to see any more cars on gravel courses than is necessary for the safety. So, but yeah, we actually had, I don't know if you're aware of this, Belgian cyclocross legend Sven Nys participated in Dirty Kanza a couple years ago. And he didn't have his best day. He wasn't able to finish. I think one probably large difference, it's a little bit warmer here, and probably what he's accustomed to, especially as a cyclocross racer. Also,
yeah, we know he always suffers a bit from the heat.
Yeah. The heat and then the length. I mean, Dirty Kanza is 200 miles, which is somewhere around 320 kilometers. That's a bit farther than he's used to going as well. So it was interesting to us as we started to see these European pros come over and participate, and in some instances not be successful in finishing. It helped us understand that we had a really, truly challenging course and challenging event. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm sure Dirty Boar presents its own challenges. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's one of the first most recognizable gravel events out of Belgium is your event. So tell us about how you guys got started in that, what that event looks like, how far do you ride, how many people are coming, all those types of things.
Okay. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, it started for us 2016 when we participated at Dirty River. And then we worked about a year, because it was March 2016. I worked about a year and a half for the first Dirty Boar in September 2017. Yeah, it's a row, not a race. It's just a ride with a group start. We ride in the east of Belgium, close to the border with Germany, in a nature park, the biggest nature park of Belgium. and it's called Haute. So it's like a plateau on at the highest point of Belgium, and has the nature reserve. So you have a lot of forest roads and roads that you see that with pure gravel. Yeah, that's one of the most recognizable roads over there. And yeah, it's around 170 kilometers. We try to keep it around that distance every year. So that's around 100 miles, a little bit over. And it's about 2,300 meters of elevation. Don't know in feet, but
Maybe
that's
around
about
7,000. Quick math.
7,000. Yeah, yeah,
That's a lot of climbing in 100 miles. It's a
yeah, yeah. And most of it is at the end. So we try to keep it interesting, and the people that pace themselves are rewarded. Yeah, so and we try to. At the beginning, when we organized, we had a few points that we like ourselves in an event. So we try to incorporate that in our event. Like we put up arrows along the whole track, and we try to provide good food stops. And yeah, at the end, everybody gets a beer and a portion of fries. So it's like a good conclusion for us of the day.
Yeah. You'd say frites, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very common at cycling events in Belgium, right?
Yeah. Well, at the gravel event, you see more, it's kind of a standard now. Everybody gets a beer and then something to eat. That's kind of the standard here for the gravel events. I don't know in other countries.
It is here as well, food and beer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was, just pointing back of all the interviews I've conducted, which this is about the seventh one, all representing different countries. Belgium, from the imagery, looks the most like Kansas here where I live in dirty Kansas. And I was looking at a road like this, very wide open, very narrow gravel. Also, got creek crossings like this.
Yeah, yeah.
This looks very much like a dirty Kansas road, big rock.
This is not the typical Belgian scenery. That's why we went, because we live near the center of the country. Yeah, we were discussing, okay, where can we put on the best gravel event, and we shifted to that nature park in the east, because that gave to us the best gravel roads. But they're not everywhere so long and so wide.
So do you have to utilize a little bit of pavement in some cases on the course?
Yeah. You can't really, unless you maybe do like loops or switchbacks here and there, then you might stay in the nature reserve.
Yeah.
But occasionally you have to cross a big road and do like some pavement to connect one piece to another. So that, I think roughly it's around 80% off-road.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's the vast majority.
Yeah.
And how many participants did you start with your first year in 2017, and how big have you grown to last year, 2019?
First year we had 350. And then we always from the second edition we set the limit to 500, because for our location and the area we think 500 is a good limit, because we also want to keep a little bit that when you ride the track you sometimes feel alone. Whereas if you would have too many people, you would always see groups of people riding. Whereas I think now some people have like, oh, I'm all alone here.
Yeah.
And yeah, that gives a special feeling, I think, that you're really riding gravel in nature. And you can sometimes forget that you're riding an event.
Yeah. You also mentioned to me before we started recording, Dirty Boar is not your or your team's full-time job. You all have other jobs that you have to do. And Here in the States, we often joke that 500 participants is the limit for it to still be a hobby. If you grow more than 500 people, it's no longer a hobby. It becomes a full-time job. So
Yeah, so
you picked
from
a good
maybe
number
that's
to start.
why we keep it at 500, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. 500 is a lot of people. For those that don't produce events, that's a lot to manage. And so it's
Mm.
not small. And to have 350 your very first year, I think speaks very highly to the cycling culture there in Belgium and the growing popularity of gravel. Because, Dirty Kanza way back in 2006 only had 34 riders the very first year. It was very, very small, very niche, and
Yeah, yeah.
took a long time to grow.
Mm. Yeah, I think that was a little bit our advantage of having already a lot of cyclists here in the country. It was just a fact of getting our name and our event out there.
Yeah.
And we will always, in the beginning, the first edition, we had like a mix of everything. We had like people on mountain bikes, some cross bikes, and then already a few people with specific gravel bikes. And then you also had a few with trekking bikes, like holiday bikes, where you could put bags on. As long as the tires were wide enough, that was okay.
Yeah.
So you saw a mix of everybody who was into cycling and thought, oh, okay, let's see what that event is like, or that sounds appealing to me. So yeah, I think that was a good place to start. And then yeah, you see now we're selling quicker every year. This year was sold out in 12 hours,
Wow.
more or less. So yeah, last year and this year, we really see that the audience for gravel rides has exploded. Hence also why we see more and more events on the calendar last year and this year.
So let's talk a little bit then about the future, where this is going, specifically in Belgium. I mean, it's anyone's guess worldwide, but you're seeing the trends. You just mentioned it's selling out faster and faster, but you have a cap of 500. Do you
Yeah.
think that there is still more room physically within Belgium and on the calendar for more events and even larger events greater than 500 participants?
Well, I think there's still room on the calendar. You can start earlier. There's still some weekends that there's not really any gravel ride on. And yeah, I think everywhere in Belgium you can organize a gravel ride. It's just that gravel depends on the area where you are. In the Haute-Fagne where we organize, it more corresponds, I think, to what you have in the States, those long roads and really gravel. In other parts of the country, can be a little bit more like farm roads that are a little bit more twisty. So every region and every event has its charm and typical features, which makes not every event the same. So, you can have two gravel events, they call them gravel, but they're completely different from course. So that's also nice to have when you to a gravel ride, you're not always every weekend having the same thing.
Right.
And yeah, bigger gravel rides, I think that will depend on the permissions you get, because every town you go through or every forest, you have to request do a separate permission request. So it's a lot of administration, a lot of work, and yeah, don't know exactly what the limit would be. That will depend on every forest separately, if it's 500 or 1,000 or more.
Yeah. We're very fortunate here that permitting is not a big obstacle for us. The vast majority of the land in Kansas is owned by private cattle ranchers and farmers. And so the roads are public. They're not nature preserves. They're not state or national forests or parks or anything like that. So permitting is quite easy here. I think that's one of the things that allowed Dirty Kansas to get so big, and also the demand and popularity. But well, it's anyone's guess, right? You need to come
Yeah, yeah.
onto that
We'll
challenge.
see
But it seems
where
as
it brings us.
yeah, but it seems as though the demand is there, that people are interested. Certainly with Dirty Boar, if you're selling out in 12 hours, you could take more if you wanted, but doesn't mean just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No, no. It has to feel right for us also, and we could probably maybe go bigger, but maybe some people will say that, oh, it was so crowded. I didn't feel the same like the beginning. And for us, what the event feels like or is more important than how many people would come there. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, anything we've missed or anything else you'd like to share about Dirty Boar or gravel in Belgium? We've covered off.
No, 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 no.
Good. Well, I hope someday to be able to make an actual tour of gravel in Europe and come by and see your event, participate someday. To
Yeah,
be in
good.
Belgium.
You're more than welcome.
Hey,
So
wonderful.
we hope to also do a visit to the United States in the coming years.
Absolutely. You always have a spot at Dirty Kansas. And, for me, the graveling makes sense because I've always enjoyed the one-day classics better than the tours and stuff. I think it's just more interesting racing. There's more meaning there. And so to come over there and participate in some gravel and take in the cycling heritage and culture would be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about it and allowing me to share some imagery from the event, and hopefully people get a little picture. Where can they find more information about Dirty Boar?
Dirtyboar.be. That's the
.be.
website.
Also on Facebook,
You
you
on
guys have
Facebook.
a Facebook page.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out. You guys have some great videos. People can learn more about the event, and maybe when we're all allowed to travel, we can see some more Americans over there riding.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thanks.